Hello, LegendAqua here, back for another anime tier list, this time on Spring 2022. So, as you can kind of see, I've watched a lot this season, though I will say that the second row is essentially made up of animes that I watched from previous seasons, or just anime I wanted to watch outside of Spring 2022. But, as a whole, I have watched a lot of anime this season. So, with that, let's start off with Q, and you know how I was talking about in the previous anime season's tier list that I didn't know the direction that this anime was going, and well, essentially it turned to a character-focused anime, and it developed a lot of the huge cast that was there individually, and there were some that I did like. However, like I said in the previous anime season's tier list, I didn't quite remember their names, but I just did like them for what development they did get. Yeah, as you can kind of see, it's hovering between C. There's a reason why, because it's in C. It was fine, but it was fine for what it was. It pretty much did its job for what it was, because essentially it just looked at the voice actors' daily lives and everything, and I was actually happy with that, more or less. They did, as I said, some of the characters did get development, but to the point that I still can't remember their names, but for what their camaraderie as well as their development to becoming a voice actor was, that was probably the best thing about it. So I was perfectly happy with that. It did its job, it was serviceable, but it was to the point that it wasn't so great, but it was to the point that it was not horrible at all. It was straight down the middle for me, so C for that. Okay, with that, Tate no Yusha. So, the second season showed up, and more or less, it had a rough startup, but as it went along, it got better and better as it went along. I will say that the plot twist that did happen and the revelations as to what happened was actually quite nice, and it tied back towards the Shield hero's development himself. And let's just say the main villain of this anime was actually more detestable than her. So, I don't know what to give it. Like, I will say that the villain is like the polar opposite towards the Shield hero, and that is kinda the entire thematic thing about rage as well. But I will say, I'll put it at A for now, but I might be putting it at B. I don't know, it's in between those two. But nonetheless, Tate no Yusha had a slow startup, but it got better as it went along, so I'll definitely give it an A or a B. But Spike's family and Kaguya-sama, easy S's. They were the top contender for this season, and without a doubt, yeah, they were both very good. Spike's family, namely for the fact that it was the premise, they stuck to it, and they executed it well. Namely for the fact that it was a spy, and an assassin, and a child psychic became a family together, and the entire family dynamic between all three of them, although they were obviously not biologically family and everything, they still felt like a very tight-knit family, and I like that about Spike's family. Not to mention the fact that Anya was pretty much the glue that held the entire family together, while Yor was pretty much my waifu of the season, as my thumbnail can easily tell. So yeah, I can't wait for it to get a second season, so easy S tier for Spike's family. As for Kaguya-sama, the culmination and the climax towards the game of love that the entire thing went to, it was so good. It was to the point that they had to do a 40-minute finale, and they pulled off the finale brilliantly. I love the finale that they did. So the fact that they made a romantic comedy and they technically finished it Yeah, I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved it. And my voice cracked back there. Komi-san, definitely S tier. Although I'll say that it is pretty much more of the same. Although they're trying to nudge the entire main couple with Komi and I forgot the main character's name, but Komi-san and him, they nudge that romantic angle a little bit more. Not to mention they introduce more of the classmates for Komi-san to befriend and everything. It is more or less the same, but that more or less the same is something that was still high tier. So definite S there for Komi-san. I hope he gets the 3rd season, to be honest. Alright, next up is Data Live. And Data Live, with the climax and the plot twist that happened with Data Live, it changes a lot of things. Although we did get introduced to more spirits along the way for Itsuka, the major factor here is the fact that we got into Kurumi's backstory, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but it's pretty much Madoka Magica concerning Homura. If you can kind of guess where that leads to, you can kind of guess where Kurumi's backstory pretty much is, with a small difference, I'll say. I'm not going to go into that much detail, but yeah, the fact that they actually got into character development towards Kurumi is, yeah, it's pretty much A to S tier, but I'll pretty much put it at A tier for now. Next up is Tomodachi Game, and I wanted the Tomodachi Game. I wanted to put Tomodachi Game as an S because it is a brilliant mystery anime. Because it's pretty much, as a lot of people is going to meme, and I pretty much memed it as soon as I saw the premise. It's pretty much Among Us, but with friends. And tons of money. But it's essentially an Among Us X Squid Game. Essentially, that's what it is. But why didn't I put Tomodachi Game in S tier? They did the read the light novel finale or read the manga finale kind of situation here. So essentially they gave us a huge cliffhanger and they didn't deliver on the finale. Like, when I watched episode 12, I was expecting an episode 13 just to round everything up. It ended at episode 12. They ended on a cliffhanger. If they just finished it or just had 1 or 2 more episodes, they could have done it and it could have been done. I could have given it an S tier, but because they left it in a cliffhanger, I cannot put that as an S. It was, I'm not gonna say wasted potential, because it still has tons of potential during those 12 episodes, but I don't like the fact that they left it on a cliffhanger. Ugh. Next up is Love Live Niji Sanji, 2nd season, and essentially they brought on 2 new idols. Actually, not 2. I missed one. 3 new idols, and essentially it's pretty much all in the same. But later on, it's kind of expected for Love Live that the rivals become friends. And that's exactly what happened. Obviously, we get more character development towards the new idols, as well as the fact that we get more character development between the relationships between the main cast and everything. But as a whole, it was fine. It's obviously a bit better than Q in that respect, mainly because it's the 2nd season, and the fact that the new cast was actually pretty good. I'll say that much, because I don't know, they brought new dynamics towards the main Niji Sanji group. So, Niji Saki group. Niji Sanji is the VTuber group. But yeah, it's a strong B for me. I wanted to put it in an A, but I can't at the same time. Next up is Heroine Tarumono. So, this anime, I was not expecting this to be like a spin-off from... Okay, let me just check here. Like, this is one I actually need to properly check because so this is essentially a country girl becomes a manager towards a boy group of 2. Essentially, that's what it is. But what I was not expecting is the fact that this anime is actually tied to... No, not that one. It's tied to the... What was it? The Zuto? The Zuto anime film series. Yeah, it's tied to this one because I believe one of the characters is pretty much like a side character within the Heroine Taramano one. It's either this one or it's the one after, I believe. Yeah, it's one of this. It's from one of this one. So I wasn't expecting it, but I also wasn't expecting the fact that Heroine Taramano was like I kind of got duped because I thought this was the idol, the idol girl was within the group. I skimmed past the synopsis and that's kind of my fault, but it was still fine. The fact that it was still like, a country girl becomes the manager towards a duo idol, male idol group. So I was actually fine with it. Not the best romantic comedy out there, but I'll say it was perfect. It was perfectly serviceable. I'll say that much. So I'll give it that. It's that and the fact that it does get into the idol tribulations of male idol groups and everything, as well as the fact that tons of rumors, etc., etc. You can kind of guess where I'm going from that one, but yeah, it was perfectly serviceable. Even though, actually no, I'll leave it there. Next up is Science Fell in Love second season, and it was actually pretty good. I'll say that much, because I loved the first season, and the second season pretty much carried on from that. What I wasn't expecting was the fact that, let's just say that the anime got pretty dark near the end, because we got into one of the core developments of, I have it here because just in case I forgot her name, on Kanade. We got huge developments towards her to the point that it kind of blew up into this huge climax and everything. But I was not expecting that the climax was going to be that dark for this kind of like romantic, bubbly comedy that happened. It was good because it was a nice contrast, but I was not expecting it. But it's still good. It's just the fact that its entire premise, the main cast is actually pretty funny and interesting. It stuck towards that and it just carried on going. I loved it because of that, but I'm not saying the ending is bad. The ending was just kind of a mood whiplash, but it was kind of expected because there were hints toward what was going on. I just completely ignored it. But still, nonetheless, Science Fell in Love second season, pretty good. Kaginado's second season is more or less the same. They just added angel beats to the main cast and chaos ensues even further. Not much to say beyond that because it's an anime short, so I'll leave it there. And second to last is Shikimori. This one belongs in B tier. I wanted to like this one. I still do, to a certain degree, but it's not to the point on, say, Komi-san, Kaguya-sama, and Date Alive and Science Fell in Love second season. The premise was decent. The main fact that it's Shikimori, the main female protagonist and the main female love interest, is pretty much the gimmick in which she both has a cute side and a cool side. And obviously I got drawn into her, like she was the main draw as to why I actually started watching it, but it was more or less the same until it got to a bit of drama, but then went back to fluffy romantic comedy / just wholesome romantic angle there. And the finale pretty much did its job. as to, you know, the main couple and everything, and I want to like it more, but I can't. I want to give it an A, but I can't. I'm not gonna say wasted potential. It did its job, but I want. Let's just say it's my expectations for this anime. I want it to be better. I want it to be a little bit better, but I can't. Because the last one is couple of cuckoos. Oh, I was about to say the other way, but no. So this anime is quite interesting. Essentially, the two main protagonists, one's the male, who's the nerdy study type. The other one is pretty much a social media star and is rich, so she doesn't know the outside world that much. They come into contact with each other, and they pretty much say, "Hey, I've got an arranged marriage. Can you help me with this and everything?" What they find out is that those two have the same arranged marriage, and essentially they'll swap from birth from those families. Yeah, that's kind of crazy, isn't it? The other thing is the fact that a Nao Taoyama character is pretty much a third wheel. Again. Although I'll say one little thing. This is a 2-cour anime, so it's still going on. But this dynamic, and as to everything that's going on, I like it. Oddly enough, a little bit more than Shikimori, because the entire dynamic between the two main characters, as well as Nao Taoyama's character, it's an interesting blend as to what's going on. Obviously, I want the main protagonist to be with Nao Taoyama's character and not get third-wheeled for the umpteenth time, but it's kind of obvious where this is leading to, but it's also the fact that it's like two fish out of water stories at the same time. It's very interesting for where it's going, so I'm obviously going to keep up with it. The name is kinda iffy, but if you can get past the premise and everything, it is actually pretty good. I actually really like this romantic comedy for all it's worth. And it's not just because Nao Taoyama is in it and she's one of the main cast, so there is that too. We will see where Cast of Cuckoos goes. So I think that does it for my Spring 2022 animes. How about the animes that I watched in between, let's say? And the first one was Macross, and I will say, because this is one anime that I watched in between Winter 2022 and Spring 2022. Obviously, I finished it by Spring 2022, and it's my first Macross, so I don't know where a lot of the lore comes in and everything, but for what it gave us and all the exposition it gave us, it was quite interesting. I did like who was her name? The pilot girl first, but then it slowly diverged into Freya, and it just got crazy. Let's just say the entire anime got crazy and crazy as to where it went, and then the bombshell hit, and just I was not expecting it. The finale was, from what I remember, it wasn't that bad. I was expecting a little bit more, but I was still. No, actually, no. Because it was crazy. It was so crazy as to what the bombshell gave us. I was not expecting the finale, but was it better than most of the Spring 2022 anime? Not really. I'll say it's down the middle for me. So it's mainly the characters that kind of pulled it off for me, and the fact that it was a finale. The finale also kind of pulled it off for me as well. Actually, if I think about it, nah, okay, fine. Macross Delta gets an A. At the very least, it gets an A, because I wasn't expecting it. It's my first Macross as well, so there's that. There were a lot of characters that I did like, as well as the development towards it, so yeah, fine. I'll give it an A. Next up is the Prisma Elia movie, the newest one, and this is pretty much the entire culmination towards what happened and just like trying to deal with the final bad guy and everything. The climax, however, I was not expecting it, and I'm actually kind of interested as to what's going to be happening next towards the Elia franchise, because what happened, I was not expecting that, because it just came out of left field. Seriously, it came out of left field for me. So huge cliffhanger, but I'm still interested. It was still a great anime movie for what it pretty much gave us developments towards the villains of the cast, and towards that I say it was still very good in that regard. And that cliffhanger is still a good tease as to what's going to be happening next. So yeah, definite A there. Princess Principal, I believe Crown Handler Part 2. It was actually pretty good. I don't know where to put that in A or B, but let's put it at B for now. Let's just say they finally got into the crux of what's going on here and everything, and towards what the big plot twist happened, and there were tons of hints. There were tons of hints, to be honest, but they gave us lots of red herrings towards this movie, which is kind of expected for like a steampunk British spy anime movie, and toward that end, it was still good. It was still very good. I was not expecting the plot twist at the end, but it's gonna be interesting as to what's gonna be happening afterwards, because of this huge revelation that's going to be going on. So I can't wait for Crown Handler 3. I really can't wait for Crown Handler 3. Next up is Zombieline, and Zombieline is... This is my first D, to be honest, because this one had huge potential as to what was going on, because it could have been, in my opinion, it could have been a 2-cour anime, and then just carried on with what the interesting gimmick premise was going to be like. However, they stopped it down the middle, and I'm thinking that the anime was rushed to that end because they were trying to make it like a 2-cour, but let's just say production development happened and it got cut down to a 12 anime episode, and they just had to cut it all down, rush it and everything. I wanted to like this anime, especially with the potential it could have given us towards the finale and everything, but they didn't. I'm obviously talking past the anime series and onto the OVA. It was wasted potential. It was wasted potential. It could have been something good and could have been something interesting, to the point of maybe C. So, yeah, just Zombieline, wasted potential. It could have been something really good. Tonikaku Kawaii. So, this is one that I've been actually kind of interested in ever since I've like heard about it and everything. And essentially, it's the fact that the main heroine is essentially the perfect mysterious waifu bride. The fact that the main character pretty much marries the main female protagonist in the first episode, and then they just get through like married life and everything. By the way, they're like 15, 16 by the way, so I'll point that out, but it was still like, it was wholesome fluff romance, but it was still good wholesome fluff romance. Is it on par with Shikimori? I'm gonna say it's a little bit higher. It's a little bit higher, namely for the fact that, you know, they kind of got married compared to Shikimori, where they're just dating. But I'll still give it a B for what it was. I believe it does have a second season in the works, so I'm actually kind of interested as to where that's going. But Tonikaku Kawaii, it's in my opinion, it's probably the best wholesome fluff romance anime that I watched this season. Next up is Doll's Frontline, and it's a C. It's a C. I'm contemplating between B and C, but Doll's Frontline, obviously, if there's players of the game, yes, this is based on a mobile game, they got an anime adaptation, and I did play it off and on, but I didn't quite get the mechanics of Girls Frontline, but I was still interested in the anime. What the anime gave us was fine, but I'll say as a non-player of the game, I didn't quite know all the lore that it gave us and everything. I just knew the fact that the supply main headquarters girl is voiced by Naoto Taiyama. That's kind of what drew me in. But overall, Doll's Frontline was not that bad. Obviously, for players of Girls Frontline, this anime is actually quite good. So I'll give it that. But for a non-player of Girls Frontline, it was alright. It was alright. The climax was decent and everything, but it was, I can't say much beyond decent, which is a shame because I wanted to like it a little bit more. Next up is Peter Grill. So this is one of the more ecchi anime that I watched, and I'm gonna kind of give it a B, to be honest, because I kind of like the comedic aspect of the entire thing. It's mainly for the fact the main hero just keeps sleeping around with other girls. He can't help it, but he's also in love with the guildmaster's daughter. And guess what? There's also a main reason why I actually did want to watch this, and it's not for the ecchi reasons. It's for the main fact that Luvia Sanctus, which is the main guildmaster's daughter, she's voiced by Makino Yagumi's voice actor. So I was kind of interested because of that, and although the premise is kind of iffy in that kind of regard, but the comedy struck. The ecchi wasn't that bad either, but like I'll say that Luvinia is probably one of my favorite characters, as well as the older sister Oni girl, but because of that, I'm still okay with it. Obviously, it's an iffy premise subject, but the comedic aspect is kind of what pulled it off for me just a little bit. I would have given it a C otherwise, but it's still okay for me for an ecchi anime. I'll give it that much. Next up is Oh Maidens of the Savage Season, and this was actually pretty good. Essentially, it's sort of, I was expecting this to be an ecchi anime. It's not, because it's essentially the literature club that's pretty much like doing like saying some like ecchi literature works, and it goes on from there. It's obviously more about puberty and obviously sex in that regard, but they never got into it. It's just more or less the main characters growing up and everything and trying to have a relationship while having these thoughts at the same time. So it's not an ecchi anime. It just talks about ecchi stuff is more or less what I'm going to say. It was still good. I still very much I like the main cast, although I'll say that my favorite character from that bunch was Rika. And it's not just because of the Mii-game, it's just that she had the most wholesome most wholesome character development from the series for me. So I'll definitely give it that. I heard lots about Oh Maidens of the Savage Season, so I was kind of interested because of that. Yeah, it was actually pretty good. It was wholesome, to say the least. Even though it just talked about ecchi stuff along the way, but it became more genuine along the way, and I was not expecting that, because as I said, I was expecting more of an ecchi fest, but I wasn't. But yeah, I was not expecting Oh Maidens of the Savage Season to be actually very good, and it's very, very good. Just don't let the title fool you. It's not like that. It's just the premise. It gets better along the way. Next up is Fire Force second season, and is actually pretty good. So, little bit of backstory with me in Fire Force, and as to why I didn't even watch Fire Force's second season when it got released, is because I thought that the first season was actually kind of meh, to say the least. I did not like the climax of the first season, and that kind of threw me off from the second season. I watched the second season, and they actually finally developed a lot of the main characters. They developed the world building of Fire Force in general, and the fact that I've heard that's now connected to Soul Eater, because it's done by the same mangaka as Soul Eater, so that kind of makes sense. But the first season, it was meh. But the second season, it made it so much better. The world building just made a lot more sense. Like, it just clicked, let's just say, and I quite enjoyed it because of that. Not to mention a lot of character development from the main squad 8 and everything. And just the world building. The world building, I just wasn't expecting them to do it, but they did. And it just makes a lot more sense as to what's going on now. So to that end, I'm actually going to, I'm going to be happy as to what the third season is going to give us, because it's going to be quite interesting as to what Fire Force is going to go into next. And the fact that it's linked to Soul Eater, I think obviously there's a link towards what's going on if you guys have watched Fire Force's second season, but it's going to be interesting. I'm going to quite enjoy what the third season's going to be like, unlike how I felt when the second season was released. So I'll give Fire Force second season like a strong A. It is very good. Next up is Love Live Superstars. So this one, a little bit of history is the fact that why I didn't watch this one when it got released either is because, let's just say that the schedule as to how this anime was released was kind of jank. So like, I believe at like one point, first 2 episodes came out and then nothing for 4 weeks, and then suddenly 4 episodes came out. I couldn't watch all that much at the same time. I shelved it because of that, but I finally got back to it. I love Superstars as well, although it's pretty much in the same rank as Nijisaki's second season for me, but it's the main cast. It's the fact that I also like the main protagonist of canon. It's kind of rare for me for Love Live for me that it's kind of rare for me for the Love Live franchise for me to actually like the main leader of the group, in this case canon. I also do like Sumire as well, so I do like the dynamic, and obviously it's just Love Live changing a few things here and there, but I do like the dynamic of the main group and everything, and I can't wait for the second season because I heard they're gonna bring in even more characters for the group, because technically for Love Live Superstars there's only 5, and usually Love Live has about 9 in a group. So yeah, second season's probably going to go into that. So I very much liked it. I wished I actually watched it sooner, but because of its jank release schedule, it kind of put me off. But overall, I finished watching it. I pretty much liked it. I can't wait for the second season. And finally, Allison to Elias. So this one gets a B as well. So I've heard about this for the longest time, and I finally wanted to watch it, and it's pretty much an adventure mystery anime, but it goes through generations. But it's the generations part I was not expecting, and it gets into a pretty interesting dynamic as to what's going on. I'm not going to go into too much spoilers, but for what it's worth, the adventure mystery angle was actually pretty good. There's a little bit of romantic angle as well, but overall, I'll say that the biggest problem with this anime is the fact that it's further down the line, they don't reveal stuff towards some of the characters, and they just don't give us a finality towards it. It just ends in a certain arc and just says, hey, read the manga / light novel. So there is that. It's also a quite old anime, so I can kind of see why they wanted to do that, but I wanted a little bit of finality towards the entire situation, but they didn't give it to us. It's still fine because I love the adventure mystery aspect and the fact that I did actually get a clue in as to what the main plot twist was, only to be rehearing to another plot twist that happened afterwards as to what was going on. It was still good. But I'll give it a B. If it gave us a proper finale, I would have given it an A, but Allison to Elias, it's a solid B for me. Okay, so that was a lot of talking for me, and this is my tier list, more or less, for what I've watched this season. As to what I'm watching currently, I'm actually watching the Iron Man anime. So, essentially, Madhouse was licensed some of the Marvel IPs, and they made their own animes based on Marvel IPs, and one of them was Iron Man. If you're wondering which version I'm watching the OG version. I'm not watching Rise of Technovore. But for right now, I was expecting Iron Man to be weird for what it was, or just like what's going on, Madhouse? Why are you animating like Iron Man or something like that? But I'm like halfway through, and Iron Man is actually pretty decent. Oddly enough, I heard Rise of Technovore is actually is the main one, but I was not expecting Iron Man's anime to be good. We'll see next season as to what I feel about it by the end, but yeah. So that's what I'm watching currently. Obviously, next season we'll see what happens with the Iron Man anime and how I feel about it next season. But yeah, that will do it for my tier list of spring 2022. Comment below what you feel about my tier list and all that, and let me know. So, comment below what your favorite animes for spring 2022 was, and yeah, let me know. With that will do it for me. See you next season on summer 2022, because I heard that one might be big, but for me, I'm not too sure what I'm watching currently, so we'll see. But yeah, I'll see you in summer 2022's final weeks, and yeah, that will do it for me. With that, LA out.